All right, welcome to this edition of Morgan You Asked For podcast. Again, we want to thank Steve Shetler Media again for allowing us to be on his media platform. And then also, I want to thank Dan Bryce, one of our good friends and golfing buddies from DB Landscape, and sponsoring us for that site and for Steve Shetler Media and helping get us onto that platform. So I want to thank both those guys. And then obviously, just for us, everything, if you'd like to help us, listening to us on Spotify is the best platform to listen to the full podcast on Steve Shetler Media. That's usually only about half of our podcast. We do another, half episode or so that we do after that. And then, the last thing is, if you want a koozie with our logo and stuff on it, you can email morganyouaskforpodcast@gmail.com a screenshot of a rating and review on any platform. Just email that to me with your address, and then I'll send that koozie out to you. And I'd love to give more of those away. And, it's real easy to do. It just takes a couple minutes, and I'll get that out to you. Again, just want to thank you guys. This is Tuesday about lunchtime. So obviously for Steve Shetler Media on Thursday night here, it's going to be a little bit dated. This will be during the Iowa women's game against Nebraska or Michigan. Sorry, we'll talk about the Nebraska game here in a little bit, against Michigan on Peacock, where Caitlin Clark will break the record unless something happens where she does not play. That would be the only way she doesn't score 8 points, in my opinion. And then obviously Iowa State men play tonight against Cincinnati on the road in a big game in the Big 12. But I want to bring Trevor in here. Today's episode is mainly about the Super Bowl. Chiefs win in overtime, 25-22. Right about the number we both picked. Pretty close there. I picked 24-20. You were a little bit over that, but not too much. Very, very good game. First half, 3 quarters, you could say a little bit boring, but it turned on in the fourth quarter and overtime, and we'll get to it now. Welcome, Trev. Where are you at today?
I'm in Pocatello, Idaho. So we've got a traveling road show we're doing this week, and I've got a little bit of time here on my lunch break. So yeah, I heard a lot of people saying that the first half they thought was boring. I thought it was great. You could feel the tension in the building. I thought both defenses were flying around. I actually really enjoyed the entire game, and I told you let's just kind of go through each quarter.
Yep.
Throughout the game. The first quarter there really wasn't a lot to talk about other than McCaffrey had a fumble, which is pretty rare for him. Trent Williams had some penalties, but it was 0-0 after first. I mean, I think both teams were just filling each other out there in the first quarter.
Yeah, people forget. Everybody talks about Mahomes' offense and then, Purdy and all the offensive weapons that the 49ers have. But these are two of the best defenses in football, and that's why they're in the Super Bowl. And those defenses were playing great, forcing fumbles, causing, penalties. Chris Jones had a heck of a game and a heck of a first quarter for sure. And then the 49ers defense, just was keeping Mahomes in the pocket. Bosa was way more effective in that first half. And that's one of the reasons it was 0-0 after one quarter.
Yeah, defense still matters. We talk a lot about the offensive players, all the big names, but you're right. These are two of the best defenses in the league. San Francisco was kind of struggling in the playoffs, but they brought their A game for the Super Bowl for sure. Their defense stepped up. So first quarter, 0-0. And then we get into the second quarter. McDuffie made a really good defensive play to prevent a touchdown. And then in comes Moody for a 55-yard field goal. That's a heck of a kick by him for a young kicker to make that long of a field goal in the Super Bowl.
And he absolutely nutted it. I mean, he hit that thing. It was just a tight little draw. I was watching it with our friend Cody, obviously a Chiefs fan. And on TV, it looked like it was blocked. That guy came flying in from the edge, and it was close. Hinting at later in the game, we're going to talk about a block kick here. But that first one, this one was off the edge. The one that got blocked was up the middle, but this one was off the edge, and he was darn close. But yeah, rookie kicker had missed some big kicks earlier in the season at Cleveland to win the game, where Purdy and the 49er offense got down the field to win the game on a field goal. He missed it. Great record-breaking kick for about an hour, but a record-breaking kick at the time, longest kick in Super Bowl history, and it was good. 3-0 Chiefs.
Right. And then, Chiefs get the ball back. Rice fumbles, but they recover it.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to get those bounces, but then, shortly after, Hardman had a big catch to get down the field, and then Pacheco fumbles. They turn it over. The 49ers make a really good play there, and then that kind of leads into the Kelce Reed bump. And I guess you just want to talk about that right now as we're going through. May as well.
Yeah, we can. Way more blown out of proportion than it should be. I think it's one of those, it looked really bad. I mean, there's no question about it. He's yelling at his face and he kind of knocks him over. But we've all been in this situation where when he got close, he bumped him, and Reed, I think, just was kind of in a bad balance spot. And so it looked really like, if he was standing there kind of ready for it, it probably wouldn't even have moved him at all. I think the optics were horrible. It looked bad. But one of the reasons Travis Kelce is the best there is, and one of the reasons Andy Reid is one of the best there is, they didn't let it affect going forward. They had their moment. I don't know what Reid said back to him or what Kelce really said to him. Essentially, the gist of it was, leave me in the game. Now, Kelce's the best receiving tight end ever. He is not the best blocking tight end ever. And that was one of the reasons. And he's not as young as he used to be. This package that they had on offense was him out the entire season, would be my guess, or at least lately. And Kelce just wasn't happy that a bad play happened and he wasn't involved even as an option. Because even if they're not throwing him the ball, if he's out there, the defense is recognizing where he's at, takes one of those linebackers that are really, really good for the 49ers out of the play because he's got to take his responsibility to Travis Kelce. That's my opinion on it. I don't know. Maybe you have a different one, but that's mine.
That's pretty much the same. Not a big deal. I'd say like a 2 out of 10 on the offended scale. It's funny because a lot of former players have played under Andy Reid were like, yeah, he does not care at all. He's seen and been through way worse than that. He's a big dude. Like Andy Reid, he'll get in players' faces in practice and stuff. Most people don't know that. He is a player's coach, but he's also very old school. If you're not doing your job, if you don't know the playbook, you won't be in. And there's a lot of players saying he'll talk crap to him during the game. Oh, you've only got 30 yards. Are you going to come to play today? Like he gets in people's face. It's just people don't, it's kind of a misconception. And, you see a bunch of people online saying Travis Kelce needs to be a role model. My response would be, if you're a parent, you be a role model, or take your kids down to the street to the church if you want a role model, or put in a Disney movie if you want to live in a fantasy land. Yeah, you're talking about players trying to win a Super Bowl. Legacies are on the line, a dynasty's on the line, emotions are going to be flying high. This is professional sports. And, how about a rule where we wait for people that are involved in incidences like this to speak later if they're offended, and if they're not, maybe we shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And Andy Reid was laughing about it afterwards.
Yeah. He probably is like, I shouldn't have been off balance and he shouldn't have knocked me over. I mean, that's probably really what he was thinking. He goes, it looked horrible. Me getting, I didn't want to look like that. So
Andy's a former offensive lineman. He's probably disappointed he got moved a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
So
it's really, and unless you've been there, done that, which none of us have been there, at the high school level, whatever, but it's nothing like the Super Bowl. And you hit on it earlier, the tension. They knew that was a big play. It ended up not being, the game decided, but it could have been. And they knew points were at a premium in this game, and that was an opportunity for them, and they're going to give the 49ers another chance, an extra chance here.
that's exactly right. So the 49ers get the ball back later in the half, in the second quarter. Jennings, the trick play to Christian McCaffrey, that was really well drawn up to
Yep.
get the touchdown there. And then, of course, Kansas City gets down the field right before half to make it 10-3.
Yeah, I think that was big at the end of the half to get some points. If it was 10-0 at half, maybe it's different, because we've all talked about it. We've talked about it, previous years on this podcast and just in general. The Super Bowl is different. The timeouts are longer. Halftime is way longer, and just everything about it is different. So coming out after halftime and everything, you don't know how people are going to react and everything. And when you're down 10-0, is a lot different down 10-3, knowing you get the ball to start the second half. And they had a chance to get that double score with at the end of the half and to start the second half.
Yeah, and as we get into the second half, the start of the third quarter, first play, Pacheco drops a little pitch to himself. He recovers, thankfully. But then a couple plays later, I thought this was a key series of events. Mahomes throws an interception, which I think he went 6 straight playoff games without a turnover.
Right.
He gave the 49ers one. They made a good play, but they got nothing out of it. Just a 3 and out. And when that happened, when the Chiefs defense stepped up, that's kind of when I'm like, all right, it's going to be okay for the Chiefs here. Now, I don't know if they're going to win, but I thought that was a real opportunity that the 49ers weren't able to take advantage of.
And that's where, to start the second half, the play calling of Kyle Shanahan keeps getting brought up. And I agree, this was not his best start of a second half. He was ahead 10-3, got a turnover, 3 straight passes. And actually, it ended up being 6 straight passes, but in this series was 3 straight passes. You have the best running back in the league. Give him the ball. And they did not.
Yeah, he got a little pass happy there in the third quarter for whatever reason. Maybe they saw something in the first half that they thought they could take advantage of. I don't know, but yeah, you would have thought they would have got Christian McCaffrey at least one handoff there in those 3 plays, because he's arguably the best player on the field outside of Mahomes. So you want to get him the ball, but I thought that was a missed opportunity. And then midway through the third, Mahomes had a big 22-yard run, sets up Butker for, as you mentioned, now a new record, 57-yarder to make it 10-6.
Yeah, that's what the first half, 49ers did a great job of keeping him in the pocket, or when he did scramble, Bosa was putting pressure on him to make him go backwards. He was, or at least he had no way to go forward. He had to go sideways to even backwards. And, he threw it away or would run and get sacked, whatever. The second half was a completely different deal.
Yeah, it was. And then, with about 2:32 left in the third quarter, the Chiefs punt the ball. That's when the Niners, it goes off the guy's ankle. And the returner, he probably should have just tried to fall on the ball right away. Looked like he was maybe trying to just pick it up and get some yards. And that's a classic case of just fall on the ball and get on top of it. And then, of course, the Chiefs score shortly after to MVS to make it 13-10. And that leads us to the fourth quarter. Was there anything there in the third that else?
No,
I forgot.
No. What quarter did the 49ers linebacker get hurt? Was it the third or the fourth?
I forget. I didn't have it written down.
But that was a big play. Running onto the field and tearing his Achilles. I mean, that Achilles is becoming almost like the new ACL, where it's just devastating. ACL, you tear your ACL, you're going to be back in a few months. Achilles is kind of the new, worst injury, I guess. Tearing ACL used to be horrible. Anymore, it's not. But Achilles is a new one, and we're getting to be more and more of the big name people getting a torn Achilles, and that's too bad.
There was a 49ers fan online talking about this, and I didn't know this, but Greenlaw, the player there, he actually had been dealing with some soreness in his Achilles past couple of weeks. There was some medical term that he used for it, something that I can't pronounce or remember because I'm not smart enough, but it sounded like he was already having some trouble with it. So the fact that he tore it, he was saying, is actually not as surprising as what most people thought. He was dealing with something previous that was affecting him.
Yeah, and you know, the old saying Achilles heel and all that stuff. And a lot of that time, just like when Kevin Durant tore his, he was coming off another injury, so making up for it, and that's kind of what happens. And I hadn't heard that, but that doesn't surprise me at all if he had already been dealing with that injury or an injury in the lower leg, and then that finally goes.
Yeah, and then we get in the fourth. You know, Purdy did have he missed a pass to Debo there, just a little bit overthrown. He had to step. And then the Chiefs defense really stepped up on 3rd and 2 there where they stopped Christian McCaffrey, but 49ers decided to go for it. Got Kittle, got the first down, and then Purdy to Jennings, which got him up 16-13. And then one of the biggest plays of the game, as you led
That
to it
was the
earlier,
biggest play. I mean,
mhm,
I think it could have
was the
changed
missed
things.
extra point.
Yep.
Yep. The missed extra point, and that's, we didn't really talk about special teams last week, but I wish we would have because it was one of the best kickers in the league versus a rookie kicker. And, I haven't went back and looked at that kick enough, but regardless, that's arguably the biggest play of the game. And then, later the Chiefs tie it up 16-16. And then with about 5:45 left, Niners start their drive. At the 2-minute warning, they had that 3rd and 4. And McDuffie comes through on that blitz. If they convert that, it's probably game over if Moody makes the kick.
I even heard this. If they run the ball, it might be over, even if they don't get it, because there's another 40 seconds or a timeout that has to be taken. And people don't think of those little things. Yes, they didn't get it, and it was a great play by McDuffie. And Purdy went to the right spot. You know, when someone blitzes, you want to throw right at them or right behind them. McDuffie made a great play to knock it down. But if you run the ball there, or even if he just takes the sack instead of trying to throw it, a timeout or 40 seconds, which is big the way it came down.
Yes, a sack there, I don't know because it was still a 53-yard field goal. So
Right.
I get what
Yeah.
you're saying. If you take a
Right.
sack, you want to like a 1-yard loss at most, right?
Right.
You don't want to
Yeah.
take a big sack. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, and running there, they could have wasted some time. We'll get into this later, and you and I've talked about it before, but when you're going against Mahomes, I think you have to be a little bit more aggressive. So I didn't mind the pass there. It was the perfect play call by Spags on the Chiefs defense. And McDuffie I don't even know if Mahomes could have made a play with that rush coming like that.
Yeah. The only thing is, and Romo, I thought was pretty good overall for the day, where third down, Spags is going to blitz. He's not going to sit back. And whether Purdy didn't see it or they had accounted for him coming and that was just a play, is Brock's got to make him miss or get around or whatever. But if that was not recognized, that was a failure by the 49ers and Brock Purdy. Because third down, they know he's blitzing or somebody's
Mhm.
blitzing, not necessarily him, but they know a blitz is coming. And, either a great play call by the Chiefs if he didn't recognize it, or, or just it was a better, sometimes just you got to tip your hat. McDuffie made a better play than Birdie did.
Yeah, it looked like a missed assignment. They didn't even look like they
Yeah.
knew he was coming, but it was a great play by McDuffie. And then Moody redeems himself though by making a 53-yard field
Yep.
goal. That's a lot of pressure there to do that. So you got to give him. He did have the missed extra point, but overall he made some big kicks. And the Chiefs get the ball back with a little under 2 minutes. There was a big 3rd and 2 where McKinnon, they dump it off to McKinnon. He picks up the first down. And then what was interesting was 16 seconds left. It was 3rd and 7.
Yep.
Mahomes hits Kelce, and Kelce has the big game there, gets knocked out of bounds. And Next Gen Stats says that's the fastest that Kelce has ran on the football field in 7 years,
Wow. That's
the
big.
highest speed that he's been. So the adrenaline pumping, probably Taylor Swift up in the suite. Must have gave him a little extra juice because, yeah, they said that's the fastest he's moved on the football field in 7 years. And then, of course, they get down, they miss a shot at the end zone. Bucker comes in, 19-19.
All right. I got to go. So we're going to continue this another time. Okay. This might be a little bit short, but I do have to go for this today. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And we'll talk to you another time.
Yep. Sounds good.
Yep. Bye.
We'll figure it out another time.
I got to go.
Go.